Hello, I've been offline for quite a while, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Posts that have been done recently have been done by the boys here, and I've taken time out to think about how we now cope with the refuge, now we are so large and have such a huge following. For example, we have an increasing following on Instagram, and for that we are very, very grateful. And of course, we continue to have some difficulties with Facebook because, as I've explained before, anything that we post on Facebook, Facebook own the copyright. So if I posted this video straight on Facebook, they could just take out a sliver of what I say, reproduce it, and it could cause problems for us. So on Facebook, we do everything through YouTube. But we've had to have a very big think. And I've been reprimanded. I have trustees in the UK and I have trustees here in Morocco. And sometimes I gallop ahead far too quickly, perhaps I say too much, that's in the nature of the beast. But let me explain at the moment. God, it's so hot here. We are absolutely baking. Change twice a day and our clothes are wringing wet. I've never known it so oppressive and suffocating in Morocco, and I have known Morocco since the 1960s. This has to be as a result of climate change, but I'm not going to get into politics. Firstly, let me tell you that we are registered with the Charity Commission in the UK, and I'm not allowed to get into politics. Secondly, we're registered here in Morocco, and Morocco is a completely separate jurisdiction. So if anybody wishes to enter the jurisdiction, it is a lot more complicated than it seems firsthand. And I'm minded, and I am reminded, that fairly recently a Moroccan who returned to Morocco and had been criticising the king quite openly for one of his policies is now in prison for 5 years. Just bear that in mind, everyone, because when I post, I have an obligation to both regulators, both in the UK and in Morocco. And I have to be very careful what I say, and I have to be very careful that I don't libel anyone. Of course, if I tell the truth, it's not libel, and I have no qualms about telling the truth. We have had a huge think. The effect of the weather is devastating in terms of equines, and donkeys do die in the extreme heat, and we have some very old donkeys and we've had to say goodbye to quite a few of them. I'm not going to list them by name because that's just too upsetting. But what I do know is those of you that have been with us since the beginning and support on a regular basis, you may send £1, £2 a week, or £5, you may send a lot more. But without all of you, we couldn't do what we do, because this is a huge struggle at times. When we first started the refuge, and I was very much on my own, I didn't take advice from anyone, because all the advice I was getting was telling me I couldn't do it. Well, I've done it, and I've done it without advice from abroad. I know Morocco. I'm integrated into Morocco. I have an understanding and a respect for Morocco. And what is crucial for us at the moment is that we have to have £5,000 a week. Bear that in mind, £5,000 a week in order to feed all our animals, pay the staff and deal with medical expenses. And we always manage to do some renovations, some extra building. I think we manage our money very well, but I'm so dependent on being able to raise that money. So the whole purpose of our social media is to let those of you that do follow me just see what we're doing. Some people might not agree with what we're doing. Some people might think in some cases we're not as kind as we should be. But we have a duty to those of you that support us to tell it as it is. Now, where I've been getting myself into a bit of hot bother is I have allowed debate to take place on the site. on the page on Instagram. So somebody might ask a question and then somebody who isn't even in Morocco answers the question, and that is taken as read. We can't allow that to continue because I've had complaints. So now we're in the process of drawing up a policy whereby any questions asked, we always endeavour to answer. Sometimes it's a short answer, sometimes it's a private answer, but we do always try. But under the new policy, which will be accepted both in Morocco and the UK, only designated people are allowed to answer on behalf of either the trust or the refuge. In respect of the trust, it will be the trustees in the UK. In respect of the refuge here, it will be me, it will be Charles, our young managers, Abdani, who's in charge of the welfare of all the animals. And if that is breached, it will be dealt with. I hope I've made that clear without upsetting too many people, but it is quite a delicate matter now. We're getting bigger and bigger. Ayoub is out at the moment with SEMO on yet another mercy mission. They've taken the truck a couple of hours drive out into the countryside to bring a horse back that has collapsed by the side of the road. Now, I take the view, and everyone who works with me supports it, and I hope those of you that contribute to our refuge do as well, that we can't say we're full, or we don't do that, or we can't do that. I'm very lucky that we have donations coming in regularly, and those of you who donate would expect me to care for an animal in desperate need. But what is happening? We're being asked to care for animals all over Morocco. And for those of you who don't live in Morocco, Morocco is a lot larger than it seems on the map. For example, there is a donkey in distress in Tangier. Now, for Ayoub to go to Tangier in a truck, it would be 10 to 12 hours. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. It isn't like doing the distance in the UK or in Europe where you have fast roads. A lot of the roads here are really quite hard to drive, and they're driving a truck, and a truck that carries animals. But bear that in mind when people do contact us. I've always said that we never turn an animal away, and if anyone can get the animal here, of course it will be welcomed. That just takes me on briefly to Turpin. Do you remember Turpin? We took him from a farm, I don't know, about 3/4 of an hour away from here. And people did comment, and rightly so. It seemed to be a working farm. You know, why couldn't they get a vet and treat the animal itself? It had been savaged on the back, badly savaged by dogs. But you know, this is Morocco, it doesn't happen. That farm doesn't know of any vets in the area, and they don't have the facilities to care for that animal in the way that it should have been cared for. So what would you expect us to do? I hope you'd expect us to bring it back here. And Turpin is now doing extremely well. All the wounds have been stitched by our vet, who called by on his way and going to holiday and made sure Turpin was okay. He's out running around, and we hope within 2 or 3 weeks he'll go back to his farm. So it isn't just always picking up desperate cases and some have to be put to sleep. I mean, that's just the awful sadness of this work. It is about having huge successes as well, and we want that to continue. Now, finally, I'm going to say something I thought I may not be saying to you, but we've decided on balance that I should. You see, on my next birthday, I'll be 80, and I have to face the fact I'm not going to be here forever. But we have created something here that people just can't get their heads around. We've done it, and it's got to continue when Charles and I are dead and gone. And there is a huge story behind it. People have often said to me, why don't you tell your story? We'd be fascinated. And I toyed with the idea, and I floated it of doing it on YouTube. I don't think that would necessarily get the coverage, and I don't know if I could keep it going. But I can tell you this now. On the 5th of March, we will be publishing my own autobiography. I'm going over to England next week to see the publishers. It's well underway. It means quite a lot of work from me, and the boys have given me time off to do that, because as I say to them, I can't clean stables anymore, but by telling the story and my belief of my ethical value about this refuge will mean that it's there when we are dead and gone, because you will all be able to continue into the future. So by telling you is going to make me do my bit every day, and I will tell you when it's off to publishers. And as it gets closer to the date, I hope we could have an international celebration as we launch the book. It will be quite amusing in places, and I hope it will be an interesting read. So that's all for now, and we'll speak again soon. Bye.